welcome everybody. We're going to get started today. My name is Angela Dick. I'm an instructional designer with Education Technology Services. So welcome. How was the keynote this morning? Did you guys like him? Is he good? Yeah, he just seems like a really great presenter. Had a lot of great things to say. I am extremely pleased to have the ability to introduce this next session. I've had an opportunity to work with this group pretty closely over the past 6 months. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Arctan and iTunes U, a match made for the iPad. And with us today we have Anna Davinsky, lead faculty for the Digital Art Certificate Program, and Megan Kohler, instructional designer here at UP. And they're really going to take you through and talk to you a little bit about this project and what we worked on the end of last year. So welcome, and can we give them a round of applause to get them started today? Thanks.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Well, I hope you are as excited about this presentation as we are. This is a project that is very near and dear to us. We spent a lot of time working on it, and so we're very pleased to be able to show it to you today. So just to give you kind of a brief overview as to what we're going to cover, because we've got a lot of great information. We're just going to give you a brief overview of the project itself, set up the expectations that we were facing when we first started. Then we're going to have Anna show you a little bit about the Penn State version of Arctan. Then we're going to go through the iTunes U version of Arctan. Then we're going to discuss some of the design and development challenges that we faced during the project. And then we'll wrap it up with question and answer session. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move right along. So when we were first approached to participate in this project, we were actually facing a lot of really interesting constraints. And the first requirement for this project was that we were supposed to take an existing Penn State course and convert it into the iTunes U platform. And so that was the main goal of the project. And in order to do that, we had to have a very collaborative team of individuals working together. And so from the eLearning Institute, which is where Arctan was offered from, we had Anna Davinsky, who's the course author. Cody Goddard was our videographer, and myself served as the instructional designer. And then from Educational Technology Services, we had Pat Busong, who was the graphic designer, Justin Miller, who was our copyright consultant, and Angela Dick, who was the instructional designer from the ETS end as well. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Anna, and she's going to walk you through the Penn State version of Arctan.
Thank you. So Arctan Introduction to Visual Studies was created in 2006 when I collaborated with the eLearning Institute to develop this course. The course is created for non-art majors, for students who have never had any art experience before. It's an introductory art appreciation course that introduces students to various art movements, genres, artists, artworks, and techniques. In the course, the students learn to look at art, to talk about art, to write about art, and to make art. So they're encouraged to research art in addition to the information that's provided to them, and then they also learn different techniques, and they use those techniques to create the artwork. So I'm just going to show you quickly the course and show you kind of the way it's presented. So as you can see here, we have the course orientation, and the course contains different chapters. Each chapter addresses a different movement. Within the movement, we discuss different artists, and then for each artist, we discuss various artworks, and then we talk about the impact of those artists and the movement on today's art. So things that we talk about are fantasy and you, which is surrealism and Dada, mail art, black and white portraiture photography, installation and environmental art, and cabinets of curiosities, three-dimensional art. So I'm just going to show you one of the modules, and it will give you an idea of how the rest of the modules fall in place. They all follow the same order. So first, the students, as you can see here, have a textbook reading. We have a textbook that's required for the course and can be obtained as an electronic version or an actual print copy. Then the students move on to the overview, the actual online content that I wrote. Here you can see the chapter objectives. And then the students are introduced to the idea of portraiture and portraiture throughout the ages and how portraiture has transformed with time, silhouettes and miniatures. Then we move on to photography and what the different types of photography and how photography was used. Then different styles of photography are discussed, such as pictorialism and straight photography. Then we talk about the role of value texture, and this is a way to connect to the textbook. So the textbook discusses the very basic language of art, the formal elements, and the course discusses the actual content and movement. So we try to create the relationship between the textbook and the online content by integrating some of the concepts and vocabulary terms from the textbook. Then we introduce them to influential portrait photographers. And then the students learn about each photographer's, sorry, it's loading, biography individually and their artwork. And as you can see, there's some vocabulary that's also integrated into the text. So in this module, there are 4 different photographers: Alfred Stieglitz, Dorothy Lane. Many of these are very well-known artworks, but for many students, they're very new. So it's exciting for them to learn this information. Roy DeCarava, and finally Diane Arbus, which is my favorite. And then the students move on to the final part of the chapter, which is the impact of portraiture photography on today's art. So more contemporary photographers are discussed. In this case, Sebastião Salgado and Cindy Sherman. So their next step is to take a quiz, and then they complete the assignment. The assignment contains 2 parts. The first part asks them to write a narrative in response to what they have learned. They're asked to conduct research in addition to what they have learned already. So they're going out and they're doing research online or at the library. They're citing their sources. And what's really important for me is that they understand why they're doing it, and they're also expressing their own opinions about art. There's also a brainstorming video that is included in the chapter in which I address every assignment specifically. And that video helps the students with the artwork creation. So in addition to writing a narrative where they discuss an artist that is interesting to them and express their own ideas and opinions, they're creating an artwork and they're discussing the process of the artwork, how the artwork relates to what they have learned. So there's a relationship between the writing and the art making. And then they submit their assignment, and then we have various sources for the students that point them in various directions, such as museums and galleries, the undergraduate writing center on campus if they're enrolled in UP. And then here is the art demonstration studio that shows the different techniques, videos with different techniques where I address line, shape, value, texture, color, and different mediums. And then there's an artwork gallery. And for every assignment over the years, I've collected a lot of examples of great student artwork. So this is a nice place for the students to go to get inspired. So for example, if I go to the stories through the lens, it's coming. You will see examples of student artwork, so they have to go out and create their own black and white photograph, And then based on that photograph, they have to create their own black and white newsprint collage. So they're working with values and textures, and they're understanding how they can recreate a black and white photograph using the newsprint medium. So seeing other student work is really inspiring for them. So after the completion of the course, the students who have never done art before are now able to write about art, to research art, to use various techniques and mediums, and to create their own artwork and be able to relate the writing aspect to the art making aspect. Thank you.
Now, when we were preparing for this presentation, we wanted to show you what the course started out as, because we felt that there was really no way for you to truly appreciate what the course ended up being without understanding where we started from. So thank you, Anna. You did a great job at showing the before, and now I'm going to walk you through the after. So if anyone is interested in downloading the course, you can go to, if you have your iPads with you, you can go to the iTunes U catalog and go straight to the Penn State page. And you'll see currently that Anna's course is the only course in iTunes U that has been developed by Penn State. And if anyone is interested in developing a course in iTunes U, I'd encourage you to please talk to Angela Dick over there. She's our current specialist with the course. So all you have to do if you're interested in downloading it, which I'm sure many of you are probably very familiar with how iTunes U works, but I just thought I'd walk you through in case there are any newbies in the room. So you can go ahead and you can subscribe to the course, or you can come down and download individual elements of the course if you choose. But so once you subscribe, you have the option to go ahead and open. And so we'll go ahead and flip back to the course, and you just click on it to open it up. Now, the first time that you open this, the application will automatically bring you to this very first page, which puts you on the info tab. As you'll notice, there's 4 tabs down the left over there, with also a sub-navigation over in the upper, that's your right? That's your left, my right, in the upper corner. So the way that the iTunes U Course Manager works is that there's 3 tabs that they automatically provide you with. They provide you with an overview, an instructor, and an outline section to the course. So these are standard pieces that they wanted everyone to contribute, or that they wanted to include in their courses, because they felt that this was critical information, and I would agree with them. The only issue that we found as we were working with this is that these 3 pages are somewhat locked down. So you can include, so for example, for this page specifically, you have an image that you can include up there next to your instructor name and the university title. But then the rest of the page is focused primarily on text. You can include links, but you can't embed any videos or additional images. So that was one restriction of the tool that we found. But as you can see, it actually worked out quite nicely. So on this page, you have an overview, course goals, and a couple of objectives, as well as a short blurb on how to get started with the course if you've never participated in an iTunes U course before. Then on the instructor page, you have the opportunity to read a little bit about Anna, as well as send her an email. Now, one of the things that we did on our end specifically, we wanted to make sure that if individuals were contacting the instructor, that it was also going to a listserv, so that, you know, if Anna was unavailable or something, that somebody else would be able to respond to an individual who might have a question. And so we just set up an alias and a listserv through Penn State, and so now there's a number of individuals who are copied on that if any emails do come in. Now, the outline page is actually something that we sort of struggled to work with a little bit because it's somewhat restrictive, but as you'll see, it actually ends up working out quite nicely. So the way that the page is structured is that every single item that's up here is its own text block. It's its own text cell. So you can really only include a single line of text. You can't include any paragraphs. And so that kind of creates a really nice structure as you walk down through the course. So as you'll see, we have an orientation, introduction to Arctan, fantasy and you, and correspondence with memory. So the reason why I'm calling those to your attention is because you'll see when I flip through the rest of the course how that structure sets itself up. Now, because we weren't able to include any type of information about the different modules in the outline page, we decided to go ahead and include a lesson overviews page so that individuals would be able to come in and read a little bit of information about each of the modules. Then another aspect of the iTunes U course is the fact that there are no collaborative applications that allow the same type of interaction that you get in the Penn State version of the iTunes, or in the Penn State version of the course, where you have an assignment studio and the students can submit their artwork and review each other's work and give feedback. There's nothing like that that accompanies this. And so the way that we tried to kind of navigate those waters was to develop a hashtag. And so if you're interested, you can go ahead and type in the hashtag. It's the number sign with Arctan PSU. And anything that has been submitted with that hashtag will automatically filter. So it really kind of frees the learners up from being tied to any specific application or software. So you can use Twitter, you can use Facebook, you can use MySpace, and the information or anything that's assigned with the hashtag will automatically just filter out for you. And then for individuals who want a more detailed understanding of how to get started with the course, we decided to go ahead and include a Where Do I Start page. And so I think that this actually ends up, if someone were to walk through the course in this manner, it actually sets it up really nicely, because here we have some information about each of the individual tabs. So you've got a little bit of information about the info tab, the post tab, notes and materials. And so that's exactly what I'm going to walk you through now. So all of this information that I've been showing you is currently on the info tab. But then when we get to the post tab, this is really where we see the actual course come into existence. And so remember how I was showing you the orientation, introduction to art, and fantasy in you in the bold face on the other page, on the outline page? Well, you can see that it actually goes ahead and creates that structure for you, which is, as I said, we thought initially that it was a restriction of the tool, but it ends up helping you out in the long run. And so a couple of things that you might want to take note of on this page. So each of these sections that you see here have a little blue dot in front of them, and that also actually ends up corresponding to the numbers that you see next to the titles on the side. So if I go ahead and click on one of these and it opens it up, you'll see that the numbers changed and that blue dot is now gone. So there's actually a really nice system of checks and balances, so you can gauge whether or not you've completed your tasks. And it's the same thing with the videos. So for example, we have our welcome video here with Anna. It's taking a moment to load, I apologize. So there you go. You can see that it'll load and it'll play. But then when you come back, you can go ahead and click on that, and it'll put a check mark there. So it's really nice in order, to kind of track your own progress as you're working through the course. Now, to draw a parallel between the information that Anna provided you with the Penn State course and how we ended up creating the course in iTunes U, I'm just going to walk you very briefly through how that structure transitioned. So we maintained the orientation for the course, but we had to do a little bit of tweaking because obviously it's not the same platform, so there's a couple of different things that we have to accommodate for. And one of those being the art demonstration videos. So if you saw in the Penn State course that the art demonstration videos were considered part of the resources, but within the actual content, you can direct your learners out to go look at those videos so they can have that additional information at their fingertips. Now, the only way that we would be able to do the same thing here in the iTunes U platform is if we would include these the art demonstration videos in the materials section, but because it's not within the flow of the content here under the post tab, it would be very easy for an individual to kind of lose sight of that or forget that they exist. So we felt it was important to put those up front into the orientation section so that the learners could actually walk through those videos and learn how to use some of those art techniques before they actually engage with the content. And we also decided that it might be nice to include a photography guide because one of the things that Anna has encountered in her course is that oftentimes we get individuals who are taking pictures of their artwork with their iPhones or smartphones or whatever types of means are available to them, and sometimes it can be very difficult to see the students' artwork. And so we thought, well, if these individuals are putting their artwork out on the web, we want to try and give them as much help as we can and try to support them so that their work looks as good as it possibly can. So our videographer, who also happens to be a phenomenal photographer, he developed a very short, sweet, 1-2 pager photography guide for individuals to be able to download and use if they would like. And then there you have sort of a reminder, kind of like before you get started, go check out the Arctan community. See what other people have done. Get inspired. And so now we're kind of moving into the actual course structure. So since Anna walked you through the Stories Through the Lens module, I'll do the exact same thing. And one thing that I'd like to call attention to that I think sometimes people have a bit of a tendency to miss this, is the fact that there are those section headings, but they're very small. It's that little gray box all the way up at the top. And it's actually not showing up very well here on this monitor, but if I move this, you can see kind of that correspondence with memory is slipping off the page. It's a little bit easier to see in the actual iTunes course, but those headings correspond with the headings that are on the left-hand side. And so, obviously, anytime you're moving from one platform to another, there's a couple of different things that you have to, obviously accommodate for, because nothing is going to transition cleanly. And so what we did is we pulled what's typically referred to as a landing page in Anna's course, which is an overview, objectives, and steps to completion. We pulled that information over and included the same overview and objectives. But then the way that this works is this is actually structured like its own steps to completion. So we decided to leave that part out. But then you'll see that we also have a virtual readings. Anna's course uses a hard copy textbook. And so in order to provide a comprehensive learning experience for individuals participating in the iTunes U course, we had to go out and find a digital version, which proved to be a bit of a challenge at first, but we were able to work with the publisher, and they were able to provide us with a digital copy of the textbook that we were able to make available to the learners. Then in addition, all of the content that Anna was walking you through previously in her course, the background information about the specific genre, the individual artists and some of their artworks, there's no actual way to integrate that into the iTunes U Course Manager. So we actually decided to create our own custom iBook. And Anna's actually going to walk you through that in just a couple minutes. Now, one thing that we found that was very nice about the iTunes U Course Manager is the fact that you have the ability to link and include any resources that are found in iTunes U into your course. So if there's an app that you want to include, you can do so. If there's an audio clip that you want to include, or a digital book, anything that's available in iTunes, you can go ahead and integrate it into your course. So it's actually really exciting because you can get very creative. And in addition, you can also link to information that's outside of it. So one of the things that we did is we went through iTunes U and we found a lot of great apps that correlated to the course. Believe it or not, there's actually some apps out there that talk about the different artists, like Henry Rousseau and Joan Moreau. They actually have their own apps out there, and so we pulled those in. But then we also went out, and for individuals that we couldn't find apps for, we linked to their artist websites. So we thought that it really helped to kind of round out the learner's experience and equip them to go out and kind of become, lifelong learners, to encourage that aspect, so that they can go out and explore these new artworks on their own. And then, unfortunately, Anna's not able to teach the iTunes U course, and so we created this as a self-paced course. And so in order to do that, we felt that it wouldn't really be, fair to the individuals participating in the course to make it seem as though this was an assignment that they had to participate in if there wasn't going to be any graded aspect to it, and if they were potentially not going to receive any feedback. So what we did is we decided to turn it into a creative activity. And so we went through and tweaked the assignment a little bit, and then at the end encouraged the learners to share their work with the Arctan hashtag, the Arctan Community. So that's really the structure of how the course transitioned from the Penn State version into the iTunes U version. And so just to kind of finish up or round out the course manager experience, you can see that there's also a notes tab, whereas if you are going through and you're watching any of those videos, you actually have the ability to take notes. Sorry, see if it's working. Oops. Sorry, technical difficulties. So you have the ability to go ahead and add a note in here, and I apologize, my keypad is not working at the moment. But if you were to add a note in here, anytime you come back to the video, you'd be able to see it here, but you'd also be able to go to, you'd also be able to go to your notes section here, and it would show you, well, there we go, it's popping up. It would go ahead and show you all of the notes that you took while you were participating in the course. And the same is true with the course notes. You can actually go into any one of those different sections and take notes, as well as the videos, and then the book notes. And then the last key piece to the iTunes U Course Manager is the materials section. And so everything that you've included in the course actually gets aggregated into this final tab in the book. And so you can filter by videos, by books, documents, apps, and web links. So as you can see, I mean, I went through that pretty fast, but you can see we've actually included a lot of great information in the course to really make sure that the learners have a really good, solid learning experience. And with that, I'm actually going to pause right here and see if anybody has any questions or comments.
Why iTunes U as opposed to another platform? What was the strategy or motivation to move in that direction?
That's a great question. We were actually, there was some type of a conversation between Penn State administration and Apple. And this was a new tool that Apple was making available, and they were collaborating with several universities in order to create some resources for the iTunes U platform, and Penn State was one of those.
So you were a pilot then, Angela. Do you expect other courses to follow this?
You know, we are definitely looking for any faculty or instructors that are interested in trying out the platform, and we're definitely interested in sitting down and speaking with those instructors. Right now, we have a few instructors that are looking into the platform and in various subject areas. So we would like to see how it would expand over other areas, not just art.
Yeah.
Just in the motivation for you to do this, because it's a free course, right? You're not having like quote Penn State students take this, so there's no money generated kind of thing. So does it help lead to folks being interested in art at Penn State, or is this just kind of a learning opportunity?
This was primarily a learning opportunity as well as an exploration opportunity. I think for the College of Arts and Architecture, who supplied the course, it was a learning opportunity to see how well a course could transition to different learning platforms. Whereas from the ETS perspective, they were more so interested in experimenting with the technology. What does it take to create a course in iTunes U? What are the constraints? What are the freedoms? How do we work around both of those in order to provide quality learning?
And you can also see how this course could definitely be, or this type of a platform could definitely be a segue to that bigger discussion of MOOCs, where this, Anna's going to share with you the total enrollment that we have right now in this course, which is quite substantial. And you know, this is an opportunity for us to showcase. Think of this as a marketing opportunity. You know, for us to really showcase some of our courses to any type of learner across the world.
Any other questions? Sure.
What's been the feedback in the College of Arts and Architecture for those, well, the faculty that are involved with the course, and then colleagues to this development, and then what's been the sense from the students in the course? Is it something that might be pursued with other courses in the college? Or?
Well, as we said, this was developed as a self-paced course. So we're currently not directing any Penn State students to the iTunes U version. And the reason for that, again, goes kind of back to the fact that there is no assignment studio portion to this course. And so in order for Anna to be able to provide students with a grade and then have that logged into Angel and the Penn State system, we need the Penn State students to stay within this, within Angel. But there are several other universities who are investigating how to integrate the iBook, how to integrate this into their own LMSs. So there was one university that was looking at, was it Canvas? I believe it was Canvas, in terms of how they could integrate the two and provide all of their students with iPads to participate in the course and get feedback from that. We're actually supposed to have a follow-up call with them so that we can find out what their experience is. So if you're interested in learning more about that, we'd be happy to share that information with you as well. So at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to Anna, and she's going to walk you through the iBook.
Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Any other visual arts colleges inquired since launching this and wanting to use it in their classrooms or use segments or portions of it? Like ask permission to?
Right.
We
I'm not
had
actually-
somebody who was, I haven't followed through that yet, but there were some people who were interested in using the videos for high school students.
And this is the first art course right now that's offered through iTunes U itself. So it was definitely an interesting experiment being that first group.
Yes, it's still an experiment. So I'm going to show you the iBook version of the course, and I think it's interesting to see how it transforms from the PSU version to this iBook presentation, and I think it's really attractive the way it looks in the iBook. So here you can see the same chapters: fantasy, new surrealism and Dada, mail art, black and white portraiture photography, installation and environmental art, and cabinets of curiosities, the use of three-dimensional objects. We used student artwork as covers for each chapter, and as you can see here, when you click on it, you can see the original photograph, for example, for this specific chapter, and collage, black and white collage by a student from Penn State. So I think our intention was to take these and to inspire other learners to, approach these creative activities and create something similar as an incentive. So I will just walk you quickly through one chapter to give you an idea of how it looks. This is the one that I already showed you. So it provides a chapter overview. We have an amazing digital artist who was working with us, and he included all kinds of small images of paintbrushes, and I created various smudges and drips on paper that were incorporated throughout the book, just to give it more of a handmade appearance. So here are the same artworks embedded into the text. I feel like they're so much more clear and almost approachable. You're holding this thing in your hands and you are flipping the pages, and I feel like it's more of an intimate experience, almost looking at the course this way, at the course content. So this is one piece that we created. It's an interactive piece, so it provides Cindy Sherman's untitled film still, and it provides the information here, but then when you click on different parts of the photograph, it talks about different aspects and meanings. So for example, this one discusses the body language used in the photograph. This one talks about expression, and the final one discusses values and textures. So there are different possibilities for interactive images. Oops. What did I?
Sorry, I just click on it.
Yeah. Different possibilities for various tools. And we also have self-checks included at the end of each chapter. And these are very basic, and they're used by, the learners to just check their, whether they understood the reading, and then they check themselves, and then if they got something wrong, they can retake it. And then here we provide other sources where they can go and explore additional artists. So I think that, the chapters are really attractive. They feature student artwork. They provide self-checks, and I think the colorful image quality is also really great.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges and about this project. And with any project you have, and especially a new type of, and I apologize, I'm a little bit ill, as you can hear. There's always challenges experimenting new things. And so one of our big challenge was the time frame. The end of July, we took part in a training that was put on by representatives from Apple. And so then essentially it was determined during that training that we were going to have this course available to the public at the beginning of the year. So that really meant for us the middle of December with our holiday break. And so that was 4.5 months that we had to develop this course. Now, 4.5 months may not seem like a long time, but for an introduction to art course where we have artwork, it really was a long time really wasn't a long time to develop this course. So some of the time constraints and some of the things that we did were, as Anna and Megan highlighted, we recreated the videos. You got to see some of those things. Anna worked very closely with Megan and Cody Goner, the videographer, to recreate some videos. We also had the digital textbook. So we only needed a few of the chapters out of the textbook. Like most instructors, they may not use the whole textbook. So what we were able to do is work with McGraw-Hill's Create. We were able to select the chapters we needed for our students to bring down the cost of the book and then publish that as an ebook with just the necessary chapters that the students would need, or learners. In this case, it would be learners. And then the other thing that was a huge time, was part of our time restraints, was copyright. If this was a general science course or a history course where there was a lot of images that we could get from stock photo sites, like stock photos, or that we wouldn't have to go and acquire a copyright, the copyright and that process really affected our 4.5 month time frame. So I'm going to turn over the copyright discussion to Megan.
So in the course, as you can see, there were a lot of images used. There were approximately 150 images used, and a lot of them were actually copyrighted. Which, I mean, with artworks, that's pretty much going to be the case anytime you do this type of a course. And so what we had to do is we actually had to sit down as a team and really evaluate what it was that we wanted to do with this course. So here we are, we're projected to provide this course to Apple on January 1st, and we've got 150 images that are copyrighted. What do we do? So we sat down as a team, and Justin was very integral to helping us work through this process. So together we worked through a decision tree that we're happy to share with anyone who's interested in taking a look at it. And if you're interested, if you're facing any copyright challenges in any way, shape, or form, I would encourage you to talk to Justin, because he really knows his stuff. He's very good. But so we created our decision tree, and what ended up happening was we basically were able to put things into 3 containers. It was either kind of nice to know, but not really imperative to the student's learning experience, which we deemed as exposure to artwork. Then there were artworks that we found that were that the students needed to see them in order to understand the art form, so that became important to the learning experience. And then there were ones that if you didn't see the artwork, you wouldn't be able to understand the content. So those we deemed as critical. And so what we did is we went back and we evaluated whether or not the images that were in the important or sort of experiential categories, whether or not we wanted to pursue those, copyright licensing with those, or if there were images in the public domain that we could swap out. So for example, if it's an image that the students have to see in order to understand the genre, well, why not swap this public domain image out with this copyrighted image, because it's a parallel. You're still getting a similar experience, even though it wasn't the original artwork that we had spoken about in the course. And so there was a little bit of tweaking that had to go along with that. But when we got down to the critical images, we found ourselves in this issue where we had to email all of the copyright holders in order to obtain permissions. And fortunately, almost all of them came back and gave us permission to use the images in the course. And surprisingly, a majority of them said, it's for education, go ahead and use it for free, which was really very surprising. There was only one organization that came back and said, we can't manage the digital world with our images yet. And so along the same lines, you know, we had a really fantastic team here, and there was a very high degree of collaboration, and there was no way that we could have developed this course in 4 months, 4.5 months, if it were just Anna and I, or Angie and Justin. I mean, we needed everybody that was around that table to be the individuals working on the project. So we were very fortunate. And with that, I'm going to hand.
So one of the other challenges that we had was accessibility. Again, at the time, iTunes U was new. They had just released iTunes U, the new version of iTunes U, in July. So later that month, you know, we had less than 30 days really playing with a brand new system. And the iBooks was released earlier that spring. So both of these tools were new. And so we went through, we made sure that there was alt tags on the artwork, we made sure that the videos were closed captioned, but Apple did a really great job with the tools in making sure that they accommodated for accessibility. And we worked with the accessibility team here at Penn State, Christian and Elizabeth, and to really like step down through the both tools to see how accessible it really was. And what was great is we found a lot of bugs with the system, and we were able to then push those issues back to Apple, and they're right now looking at those things to making it better for accessibility users. So one of the things I just want to hit on, I know that we're getting close to time. I'm going to push this to Anna for closing remarks, but if you have more questions and want to talk to one of us about the Art 10, Megan is actually going to be in the TLT experience room later on today, and Justin and I will be at the iTunes table this afternoon in the demo area. Also, if you're interested in learning more about these tools, there's itunesu.psu.edu you can go to learn a little bit more, and I have cards if you're interested. So I'm going to bump this over to Anna to kind of wrap up and talk to you about what is next for Art 10.
Yeah, so as Angie was saying, it was a really incredible experience, and all of us worked so close together, and even though some of it was very challenging, it was overall an incredibly rewarding experience, and I think each one of us has walked away with a lot of things that we've learned that we're going to take other places. So currently there are over 50,000 subscriptions to Art 10 on iTunes U, and our next step of exploration is creating a MOOC. So the MOOC is called Introduction to Art, Concepts and Techniques, and it will be launched at the end of May. So the MOOC is based on some of the content from the original Art 10 PSU course, but that content will be offered in a different manner because MOOCs are completely different thing. So currently we have over 15,000 subscribers to the Art MOOC, and we're very excited about the possibilities, and I think it's extremely exciting that we can have learners from all over the world, from different backgrounds, contributing to this and creating artwork and having an ongoing discussion about art and sharing their ideas and creativity. So thank you so much